Everybody, let's call this special meeting of the Commissioners Court to order. This is March the 17th, 2026. Let's all rise for the invocation and the pledge. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all your blessings, Lord. We ask for strength and wisdom as we go about the decision making today for both the city and the county. Thank you for all you provide. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Sure. Larry, you want to?
Yes, please. Okay, proof of notice of meetings, City Secretary.
Thank you, Mayor. Notice that this meeting was posted by 2 p.m. on March 11th.
Wonderful. We have a quorum with all city council members present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks to everybody for joining. I do have an item on the agenda for public comments. Are there any public comments before we start? Yes, sir. Just introduce yourself. I know everybody knows you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Court, City Council, and everyone here today. Just wanted to thank you, first of all, compliment you for the work that you all are doing, the interlocal coming together on this. Wanted to just share a few thoughts right quick. Having worked on a ESD in Reeves County several years ago, of course, they're dealing with a lot more revenue. It was so important to bring in that. It created that emergency service district, bringing in close to 40 million. But going back to Brewster County here, I appreciate the work that you are doing. One of the things that is so important, me personally, I can say, to deliver the sermon, I guess, is to get that message more consistently out there from here to November for the ballot. One of the things that's going to happen, because there's a social economic factors that are kicking in that are not good right now. So important to deliver the message consistently, the advertisement, the media, everything, to get the people out. Because sad to say, some people didn't even know there were primary elections, didn't even know. They've heard about this going on, but not everybody. So we make them aware. I also wanted to ask, hopefully we're reaching out right now to both Senators Roland Gutierrez, Cesar Blanco, everybody. And I thank you for everything. I know that you probably have your grant writers intact already and everything, because this is so important, as we all know. But the vote is what's going to count, because people don't want to hear about higher taxes or this or that. But we got to create that positive message from here to November. And thank you so much, and God bless everybody.
Thank you, Oscar. Appreciate it. Okay, number 5, review and discuss and take any necessary action related to the report by the EMS task force. I'm going to turn this over to Mark Rose, the chair of the task force.
I need to get a motion. A second. I need a motion, council, to discuss and review.
So moved.
I need a second. Okay, in discussion, we're moving on with Mr. Rose.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, not used to this level.
I know, it's okay. It's only our 3rd time.
Okay. Mayor and council members and judge and commissioners, thank you for the work you're doing and for having this session today. So my name is Mark Rose. I live in Sierra Leona, a resident of the county. My first thing I want to do is recognize the task force members who spent quite a bit of time on this, and many of whom are here today, but I recognize everyone. Y'all can read, so I'll let you go through there. So you see, we had a wide range of talent on the task force, excluding me. And I think we have another page, don't we, Jessica? So physicians, paramedics, CPA, a professor, Alan and me as citizens, other folks. And then we had these advisory members who worked with us. Raul attended every meeting and was a tremendous help to us. So that's the task force that is completing its work today. In addition, the judge and Commissioner Morrow attended almost every meeting. Several council members attended as well. In terms of process, We had 3 town hall meetings, 1 in Marathon, 2 in Alpine, well attended. We attended the State Association of ESDs so we could get a sense of the other ESDs in Texas. There's over 344 ESDs in Texas now. And I will tell you that it is an urban strategy as well as a rural strategy. By no means are ESDs just something for the rural area. We had discussions with law firms that specialize in this so that we could understand what was required, whether you're having an SD or if you're doing services some other way. And then we've had some discussions and done some cost analysis with providers to see if there are folks out there who are interested. We also, this came up at several town hall meetings, we had a meeting with the hospital district and also we attended their meeting and then also have a statement from them, which I'll cover in a minute. So our task was to see what emergency services options are available to the community, because the group that agreed 3 years ago to provide service has made it clear that they will no longer provide services at the level, that subsidized level that they have been providing services in the past. They have been able to piggyback off of an air contract, which is not as available as it was. So the challenge that we face is now quite simple. We either don't have an EMS service for the community. We're not legally required to, you are not legally required to provide that. I'm not saying that that's the best political option, but just legally, you're not required to provide an EMS. If we are to have an EMS, then we as a community have to figure out to pay for it, because there is no option available to us as a community that is anywhere close to what we have been paying. Translation, no subsidized service. So what was $350,000 that we are providing is now a minimum floor based on conversations and near bids with companies of $948,000. So that is a significant cost increase, and that is using a vendor. Where there are some cost comparisons, and we've looked at the cost of standing up a service, but we focused on what would be the floor, and that would be, well, if we just hired another company to come in and do what we've been doing, but with a better level of service, what is our floor of cost? And our estimate on that, after talking to 3 or 4 different companies, is in the $900,000 range. So what I thought would be helpful now is to let Jessica run through the slides from what we discussed at the town hall meetings and how we looked at those options. And then following that, I'll land the plane.
Before I jump into those options, I want to just provide you all this summary. We did allow our town halls were very well attended, the 2 here in Alpine as well as the 1 in Marathon, and we did give them the option to do a survey. This is the summary of the survey results. In the Marathon one is separate on the back, and then the Alpine one, they're all combined in the front. So I'll provide copies of that be there. And so, like Mark said, if you went to any of the town hall meetings, we presented 4 options. A couple of those options are really not feasible. He did mention the option to not provide EMS services at all, and we're really not considering that as a task force. So what we're going to be presenting today is basically the 2 realistic options that we see moving forward. And so option 1 being the county city option, and that being where we basically our county and city are running our EMS services similar to how we're doing our fire. That does provide more stability than what we're doing right now. And it does allow us to continue having some local control over the through our local county and city officials of the provision of those services. So those are all great things about that. The cons, however, are that we would still, like Mark mentioned, the floor here is around $900,000. And so what we've been providing with $350,000 from the city and county, it's just not going to do it. So we would be required to raise taxes there. That would require voter approval. That would continue to put a strain on our city and county tax structure because of competition with other things. And for those of you who are here who don't know this, our city and county are limited in the way that they can increase those taxes for us. And when we have changes of leadership, there's really no way to ensure that stability of funding for our emergency services would continue through those leadership changes or through different budget cycles. So those are the cons for that one. Option 2 would be to create this emergency services district that would be a second emergency services district for this area. That would provide us a little bit more stability through a vendor or through in that way, because we would have that designated entity to be looking at that, and also as a funding vehicle for getting that tax revenue for those services. Voter approval is required, and I have that on the pro. We have on the pro side. I think it is potentially a con if we can't get it passed, but it is a voter approved process to create an ESD. And the control of that is through residents serving on a board of directors. So it is still locally controlled. More pros here. It's independent of the county and city budgeting process. So the money that is funneled into this taxing entity is strictly for emergency services in this area. That tax rate is also capped. And so it's not something that can just continue to grow out of control. And it does also, similar to the other option, combine EMS and fire to one point of control. The con there, as Mark mentioned, either of these options, we're going to have to need more funding in order to continue these services. And then I have these slides up if you wanted to still show the different.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So what I will do now is kind of summarize what our recommendation is, although we have a formal recommendation that each task force member has agreed to. And I will tell you that our recommendation to you was unanimous in terms of our future direction. And that recommendation is to call for the election of an ESD, an Emergency Services District. That would be an election that the county would call and an election that the county would run. But it would also require the city council to agree to opt in, or at least it would be our preference that the city would agree to opt in. The city does have the option of doing nothing and then you automatically opt in, but I think it would be a stronger statement if the council and the court were united in this. Our level of services were everything north of the ESD that's in South County. In South County, there is already an existing ESD for fire and EMS. That ESD operates off of sales tax. That is not a viable option for North County because both the city and the county have pretty much capped. There's a little area in the Marathon area that might have some availability for sales tax, but it would never carry the freight on all of this. So this would have to be a property tax election. By state law, an emergency services district is a political subdivision. So its members, there are 5 members by law appointed by the county. They serve under the same rules and regulations as the city council members do, and as the court does as a political subdivision of the state. Open meeting, open records, all the ethics provisions, all of those are the same. And we would recommend that the ESD be created to handle both fire and emergency services. Many do that. There are some specialized districts where it's just EMS or just fire, but most of the smaller districts, by the way they're created, by the ballot language, are for both, and we would recommend that as well. The tax rate is a maximum of 10 cents set by law, so the district can never charge more than 10 cents. So on a $230,000 house, that's $230 a year, and on up, depending on where you are on the appraisal. The district, once created, can set a rate lower than that, but it would make no sense to go to the voters and say, approve this for 8 cents, and then 2 years later it needs to be 9 cents. You have to go have another election. It would be better to just simply say, we want the full authorization for 10 cents, and we want to be able to do fire and EMS to cover potentially all of the emergency services. Whether or not you actually do that is up to the two institutions, but to create it, it would make the most sense to be both fire and EMS. Also, at all of our levels of service, we have costed in and discussed service for Marathon as well as the Alpine area. So under every proposal, there would be an ambulance in Marathon. We got quite a bit of community feedback on that in terms of an equal level of service in North County. The process that we go through is we make this recommendation today. A citizen's petition is required by law. So before the county can consider calling an election, they have to have been given a petition signed by at least 100 of the residents, the potential residents of the district. And so that would trigger then the standard election process that would be on the November ballot, for an electric services. So our thinking is we're presenting this recommendation to y'all today. There will be a petition. I mean, there's a group of us that's dedicated to get that 100 members plus and turn it into the county. The county would then be required to hold a public hearing on the election. And then from there, they could decide to call the election or not call the election. And in summary, that's a county decision. The city's role in this is to see if you want to participate. And even after, let's assuming that you say, yes, we would be included in the emergency services district, we still have the specific requirement under the law that a majority of the residents of the Alpine service territory have to vote in favor of the district, in addition to the majority of the overall district. That's kind of a so what here, because if you don't pass Alpine, you're probably not going to pass anything else. But that's really designed for counties that have 2 or 3 cities in it. And so maybe Lago Vista wants out, but Lake Travis wants in. They would have that option. But again, for us, this is a community-wide effort that is only going to be successful with community-wide support. This is only going to be successful with the city and the county working together and us going out and educating a community about the choice that is before us. And in summary, it really is a funding choice unless the decision is not to have EMS. We can't find anyone, including the current provider, who will provide this service for, I'll round it down, less than $900,000. That exceeds the city's taxing authority, that exceeds the county's. So even if you just didn't want to have an ESD, we'll just do this ourselves, then the city and the county would have to go out to raise your cap. And those funds would not be dedicated. And to us, what's essential in all of this is that we do this time for good. That we resolve this issue. That would be your legacy as council members and commissioners, that on a long-term basis, you reserve this. Creating an ESD takes those funds, it puts it in a dedicated political subdivision that can only do fire and EMS. That is their job. There are 2-year terms. They don't do it, they don't get reappointed. The same process of, serving in public services here. We had questions about, well, are you going to stand it up or are you going to do a provider? We looked at the provider as the baseline because that's the lowest cost. And that's a decision, frankly, that an ESD would create if the voters created it, or the county and the city will face if you were to do it on your own. So we looked at the vendor because that is what we know, what we're doing now. And we know there's at least 2 or 3 companies that might be available. And ESD would go through a bidding process to firm all of that up. But we have what we think are very good numbers. And then there is the hospital district. There were conversations about, well, what about the hospital district? Because they have some folks, and they do. But it's a 2-county hospital district. So what they do for Brewster, they have to do for Presidio. They have their boat full, according to them, with paying for indigent care. They also have to be in place in case something were to happen to the hospital. So their message back to us formally from the board was that their role is to continue on to assist buying an ambulance or providing some capital equipment, but they do not have it as part of their mission to provide EMS. and they do not intend to provide any of it. So, and also the hospital board is a statutory created. So to change it, to make it one county, to separate it, to do any of those kinds of things, you have to go back to the legislature. Very difficult and way beyond our time frame. So the hospital district is there as a partner, but they are not there to take over the responsibility. So we ask that the governing bodies support creating an ESD, and we prepare to take that to the voters in the fall. We had a couple of task force members that I think wanted to say something briefly. She has the recommendation. Are there any task force members that want to say anything? Did I forget anything or leave anything out? Alan, you good? All right. Oh, I think
I will just briefly. My name is Alan Haley. I am a resident of Marathon, not Marathon. I was invited to join the task force after the town hall meeting in Marathon. I want to tell you all that while Marathon is a small political part of the county, there are only about 383 voters in Marathon, but we are the larger part physically of the county when you consider everything east of the Carroll County line. And then, of course, everything in Commissioner Ortega's district that comes up where he nearly meets Mr. Westmoreland's district. But they are very much in favor of this. An informal survey last week of the people in Marathon was overwhelmingly in 90+% in favor. There were a few people who could not make up their mind. I will tell you that the reason they can't make up their mind is exactly what Mark told you is not going to happen. They still don't understand that the hospital district cannot come in and provide an ambulance for Marathon without providing an ambulance for Terlingua and Presidio and Marfa and everywhere else that there is. So overwhelmingly, we intend to be a driving force behind this ESP. I personally intend to go out and get 100 petition signatures from the Marathon registered voters in favor of this. We find it very important. The other thing, and in closing, I met with the volunteer fire department people last week and put it to them, much to what you have seen up here. There's options. What do you think about the options? Unanimously, the Marathon Volunteer Fire Department is now 100% behind the creation of the ESP. They see this as an opportunity to be a functional, on-time, reliable, and cost-effective way of providing emergency services to the east and southeast part of the county. They see the opportunity to work in unison with ESD number 1 to make efficiencies where it's actually closer to Marathon than it is to Terlingua to get to FM 277, whatever it is in the south part of the county. So there's opportunities through the ESD to be more efficient. And we're looking for that. We're also looking to do things right now in Marathon. They need to bulk up their work. They need more people so that when there's an ESD call, it does not jeopardize the fire call in Marathon. Vice versa, if they have a fire call, they don't want to jeopardize the ESD. So they're going out and starting to get more people who can be ESMs trained and can be qualified. It's 2 options. If there is an ESD form, they are going to be ready to answer the call with ESD to provide ambulance personnel to fund or to run the Marathon station. But contrary, if option other, which we hope does not happen, and it's a failure of ESD, then they stand ready to respond to the county's need for bodies to help fund, I keep saying fund, to operate the station in Marathon. So Marathon is behind this. We hope that everyone else in the county is well. Mark, thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Two things. Alan jarred my memory on something I should have said that is very important. We are asking that an ESD be created so that it has the ability to do fire and EMS. There would continue to be volunteer fire department. There would be a volunteer fire department here, and there would be a volunteer fire department in Marathon. We've not calculated in a full-time professional. We know right off the bat that would exceed any revenues that we have. And many ESDs have direct relationships with volunteer fire departments. In fact, most do. They're either contracting with another ESD that just does fire, or they're contracting with a volunteer fire department. So, that's one thing that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned. Are there any other task force members that wanted to say anything? Not required, but just see if you do. Any questions? Okay.
I think the thing that's before us today, council members and commissioners, is really, the recommendation is to proceed with pursuing an ESD. We're not making that decision today. We can't make it until we get the petition and a formal hearing and so forth. So this is really for us to say, yeah, keep working towards this. This is a good idea. We want you to keep working toward, or it's our opportunity to say, we don't have an appetite for this. Let's stop. And that's kind of where we are today.
And I'm saying this for Kara, so she'll put it in the newspaper, because I forgot it. She's used to me by now. I should have said this in the very beginning, but in looking at all of the calculations at a 10-cent rate or less, an ESD is economically viable, and it can provide fire service. It can provide it at the vendor level. It can provide it even if we were to stand up a unit. We have done all of those calculations. So we're not asking you or the community to consider something that is not economically viable without other subsidies. So.
Councilmember Stevens?
Just, thank you. So it ties into my first two questions. First is, what's the expected cost of this district to operate on an annual basis?
Beyond the vendor provision, I don't think it would be very nominal. It's a volunteer board.
No. I'm talking about the cost for EMS and fire, the district.
Okay.
What is the EMS and fire cost going to be? That's the first question. Second question is, I don't recall what the county revenue is. What would the revenue be at 10 cents on the $100 value?
So at $100, at 10 cents on the 100, Rick, the levy would be right at our estimation is 1.5 million.
Okay.
We don't collect 100%, obviously. So
Yeah,
the
okay.
collected rate is about $1.3 million.
Okay, great.
So Patty's got some numbers. You want to hand those?
I've got them.
Okay.
Great. Somebody's got them.
Yeah. So
It shows what the cost is. The cost, what we did is we went out to about 4 or 5 vendors and said, if you had a subsidy, I'm not gonna hold you this, what would you charge to run an EMS service for us? And what it did is it really proved up what we already knew. It proved up our numbers.
Yeah.
We kind of used them as a stalking horse to prove up our numbers. Our numbers are a little higher because if we stand up an EMS, we're gonna have more overhead than they are because they can spread it out across. But at the end of the day, $900,000 is what it would cost to run. And then you'll have some incidental costs like that outside audits.
Yeah.
yeah, the average is, to be precise, the average of a third party vendor. So an emergent, a so-and-so ambulance company is anywhere from 7 to 1.2. So the average of that is 984,000. That's our baseline.
Yeah.
We believe that a unit could be stood up at a premium level of 1.5 million or less. And so that is why I said that we calculate that based on what a district would collect in taxes, it is economically viable to provide EMS. Fire, if we were given that, if an ESD were given that task, currently, both the county and the city are subsidizing it. There might be some room for that. Fire might get under that umbrella, but we just concentrated on EMS.
Thanks. That's what I was looking for. bottom line, it
Yeah.
fits within the point.
Yeah, and when you look at our numbers, what's not in here is the revenue that the ambulance service would actually generate.
Correct.
We anticipate would be about 300,000 a year.
Okay.
So on that 1.5 million, you really have a cost of about 1.2 million.
Yep.
Because you've got revenue coming in. We just excluded that for the purposes of this.
No, I understand, and I think about escalation over time.
Yes.
Property tax rates, we always have a challenge getting up there, so.
Yes, sir.
That takes care of us. The third question is, what would the transition strategy be? Because Emergence on, they said that we won't go as long, but if we talked to them about getting us all the way through to December.
We have, and we have an indication that they would be willing to do that. They also may be one of our prospective bidders, but not at the current amount. Not anywhere close to that.
That's why they're not.
Yeah, so, yeah, you know, so there is about a year's transition because you create a district in November, you stand it up, you're not collecting taxes for another year. Most of these districts go out to specialized government lending corporations and they borrow their starting costs and calculate that into their number for their first year revenues. So we believe we have continued service. We feel good about that, provided we're moving towards a viable one. Yes, sir.
That kind of answers the question about what do you do for these next 2 years between till first quarter of 28.
Yes, sir.
Money comes in.
And one of the reasons we zeroed in on the vendors is because a lot of these departments, that is what they do initially, even if they have a desire of standing up their own EMS service someday. That's a really difficult transition from a run and start, but from not a run and start. So we would anticipate there would be some level, and ESD would probably consider some level of a vendor contract, even if their ultimate goal was to stand up something.
All right, Councilmember Lucas,
And sorry, I got an answer.
Councilmember Escobedo, Councilmember Martinez,
I think it's a great idea. We need to keep working together. We have to provide the service.
Councilmember Portillo,
No, ma'am, they answered everything.
Not much more formal than we are. Commissioners? Yeah, you know, guys, I think this is the right path. I think we've got a lot of work to do. I want to thank all the members of the task force that have worked hard on this for the last few months to bring this to fruition. So, but we got more work to do, or they have more work to do. And we appreciate it. So, I don't know, just
Does the city need to make a motion to continue to support? If so, I'd make the motion that the city continue to support the actions necessary, working with the county to move towards an ESD.
I'll stand it. Right, Council, are you ready to vote? Okay, Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Escobedo.
Aye.
Councilmember.
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez. Councilmember Portillo.
Aye.
City Secretary, Council voted unanimously to continue working with the county to move forward with the task force recommendation for ESD.
I didn't entertain a motion from the commissioners or similar.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's go forward. And we'll get back together in the summer and bring everybody up to date with some.
I have 1 minute,
Sure.
I promise.
Yeah. Clock is ticking.
Yeah, I don't put the timer on there.
Now 55 seconds.
Sheriff is here.
I moved to reclaim my time. Now, this is not part of the recommendation from the task force. As Mark started by saying, the task force is reaching the end of their task that they've been appointed. I want to point out something to the council and to the commissioners. The date is tentatively December 8th, that there is a board of directors appointed for ESD. What is important for you all to know is that come December 8th, all they have is a name and a board of directors. They have no staff. They don't even have a file cabinet to put files in. But what they are going to have to do and hit the ground running is they're going to have about 6 months to go through that thing we all know and love. And that is budgets, hearings, tax rates, effective tax rates. I urge both people here, all the people here, to continue the work of the task force, but possibly with a new side to this. We need to be able to hand them some legwork in advance. They've got to create policies, procedures. They've got to do all of this without a staff, and according to the open meeting act, they can only do it at 2 at a time, because if they have 3, they have to publish a notice of meeting. So anything that we could do by extension to help them would help the ESD enrollment. Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Well, Alan, I'll respond to that by telling you that the judge has already voluntold me that the task force is not disbanding, and that one of our remaining tasks would be a transition plan. So that we can work on a transition plan, that if an ESD is created and then once the board members are appointed, we could hand them a notebook saying this is the first 5 things that you do. Here's what we've organized for you. Here's, in addition, the county is also, we're asking that they go ahead and engage counsel so that as the community is going through the decision-making process, we make sure, we're doing it the right way. Last thing is, I should have done this in the beginning, but several of you attended the town hall meetings. Thank you. I've been to 1 million town hall meetings or less, and they were outstanding, and the elected leadership being there, and the judge and the mayor has put a lot of time in on this, and we thank you as well.
All right, so with that, we are going to adjourn at 10:06 p.m. Thank you.
Entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion is second, all in favor, say aye.
All right, so council.
Yeah, yours always up on. That's long.